If it's not gut check time for the Phoenix Suns, it could be trophy time for the Milwaukee Bucks, who head into Game 6 in Milwaukee with a 3-2 lead, just one game away from the first title for the Bucks in 50 years. Joining me now from Locked On Suns, Brendon Kleen. And Brendon, this would be, if the Suns win a title, their first in franchise history. So both teams potentially on the precipice here. We've talked about moves, counter moves, counters to the counters. What do the Suns have left to try and stay alive in this finals?
Well, it's funny you say that, and anyone who is living and dying by these shots feels the same way. You talk yourself in circles in these series. Oh, they should attack the glass. Oh no, they should be conservative, and you tie yourself up. But I tend to default back to a lot of what the Suns have been doing all year and what they're getting away from right now. I don't think that it's Devin Booker's fault, as some have, but him scoring 40 has not led to wins. And so moving the ball, creating three-pointers, they only had 19 in Game 5. That has been their recipe. That has been how they've been able to be better than the sum of their parts. It's not happening right now. It needs to. Chris Paul, Cameron Payne, Devin Booker need to create those shots for their teammates in order for the offense to control the game a little bit more than it has.
Yeah, it feels weird to say that the Bucks are saying, okay, Devin Booker, if you want to take 33 shots to get 40 points, we'll live with that. But that's what Milwaukee's doing. They're taking away the corner threes. They're not letting the Suns get into the paint, which is something Phoenix already not great at. So offensively, you mentioned moving the ball, that kind of stuff. It is something that we saw Phoenix do all year. But with Chris Paul looking like he's not 100%, what is it? Just, hey, Chris Paul has to be better, or do they have some sort of answer that they can go to?
It's exactly the right question, because I think the reality is the other thing about people expecting that Devin Booker can sort of put that hat on is that very few players are as good at Chris Paul at doing that. So that's the inevitable problem that the Suns are running up against, is you can't just ask somebody else to do what it is that Chris Paul does. I do think Cameron Payne has been underrated. I think people are looking at his misses and just thinking he hasn't been great. Putting him on the floor with Chris Paul, I think, could help. DeAndre Ayton being a little bit more decisive, playing with better energy as a roller, sealing, all the stuff we saw him do in the Western Conference Finals. He needs to get back to doing that. Their offense takes all five, and it's not just Chris Paul that's missing right now.
We've seen Ayton, too, at times in this series. We saw him make a couple face-up jumpers earlier in the series. He can do seemingly more than he's being asked to do. They're just not asking him to do it right now.
Sure. And, part of it is the chicken and the egg of, is he getting post position, or is he not being fed the ball? And, is he not trying to get that post position and there's no ball to get him? And I think it's both. They need to look for him. He also needs to play with that energy. I also think the reality is he's having to do a lot on the other side of the floor, guarding Giannis, playing 40-plus minutes. I mean, I think that just has gotten sort of overlooked almost, because he's been doing it for 3 straight rounds at this point. But playing 40 minutes, that's not something a big man does in the NBA, and he's been doing it for months at this point. So not to give him that excuse, but that's a really tall task. So yeah, you just got to dig down at this point. It's Game 6, and it's hard. That's the point of what this is.